It is a huge fire that takes place in Nero's reign in 64 CE, in the summer, in July of 64. We're not quite sure how the fire starts. Some historians say it's Nero who starts the fire, and the reason for that is because he wants to rebuild the city in his own image, as it were, or use it as an excuse to extend his palace, or those sorts of things. Nero is building a palace at the time, which also is destroyed in the fire. Another source, so Suetonius and Cassius Dio are the ones who think that Nero set fire himself. Tacitus says that he doesn't. He probably doesn't, but that he does. Sort of one of his agents, a man named Tigellinus, does kind of keep it going when it might stop. Tacitus finds it supremely suspicious that as the fire seems to be dying down, it picks up again in one of Tigellinus's estates. So he sees that as suspicious, I suppose, is the sort of nice way to put it. In terms of the fire, it does spread very quickly. It's midsummer, if you imagine how hot that might be, buildings close together, so it does cause significant devastation in Rome, the kind that we haven't seen for quite a long time in terms of Roman history. So what then happens is Nero is away from Rome at the time. He's in Antium, which is just outside of Rome, not so far, but he comes back and he opens up his gardens so that the people can come in, so that they have somewhere safe to go and to flee to. And then he sends out people to stop the fire, essentially. So there are firefighters in Rome and others, the army and the Praetorian Guard and so forth. So he sends out people to try and get it under control, which eventually they manage to do. But it does, as I said, cause significant damage in the meantime. But the reason, perhaps, why Nero is so heavily implicated in the setting of the fire in the first place, or in the continuation of the fire, is because he does take the opportunity to rebuild Rome afterwards, and he does do some good things. He does make the buildings farther apart, so wider streets and that sort of thing, to try and stop, things jumping from one place to another so quickly. And then builds porticos, because of course the problem with buildings being far apart in Rome is that you don't have the shade. You need some shade to be able to walk, so there are porticos added as well, because by definition widening them means less shade. He also wants different blocks, so terraces, if we imagine sort of terraces, to have proper walls in between each house, so to have proper materials, rather than just a partition wall, essentially. So those kinds of measures he's putting in place, which, that Tacitus does say are good things. The problem is, though, he also decides he's going to build a huge palace for himself, so the Golden House, the Domus Aurea, and this is the point where he starts to put that in place. He never actually gets to finish his Domus Aurea.